Frankenstein is reimagined for a contemporary audience in The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. The desire for an adolescent girl to blend in. A fractured family. A monstrous beast. I'm referring to Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein, which she wrote when she was just 19 years old. Published in 1818. Her novel has been the inspiration for dozens of films over the last 100+ years and continues to find new audiences as filmmakers find new avenues into the shocking tale that remains surprisingly relevant 2 centuries later. Motive for the contemporary retelling of a classic. The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, the latest film by writer-director Bomani J. Story, has been incorporated into the Frankenstein canon. It's a compelling, visceral edition that demands to be seen. I am trying to understand the story about the movie to get more about how he drew inspiration from such a well-known tale and the difficulties of working in the horror genre. In the movie The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, Vicaria, a young urban girl, played by Lea De Leon Hayes, utilizes her knack for science to revive her deceased brother. Playing God, though, has repercussions, and this is one of the appeals of the original tale. Story claims that he was eager to explore that moral and ethical issue with Vicaria, the Dr. Frankenstein-inspired persona, as the primary subject rather than the actual monster. The monster is a highly engaging character, and everyone gets sucked into it. But the tale is known as Frankenstein. Victor Frankenstein's voyage, ascent, and fall are all covered in this narrative. When I created Vicaria, I wanted to bring all of that back, explains Story. Grounding this mad scientist and presenting it in a fresh way was a major objective for me. Vicaria needed to feel more like a typical high school student, so I tried to humanize her. Similar to someone I knew or one of my sisters from my childhood. She is a human being who just so happens to be extremely intelligent, not the other way around. Story based on real life. Vicaria, who lost both her mother and her brother, is all too aware of how natural it is to experience grief and death. Vicaria's father, Donald Chad L. Coleman, is consumed by his own grief and turns to street drugs to ease it. This puts him on a dangerous path that further breaks his daughter's heart and heightens the drama in the narrative. Story explains, people who are close to you hurt you the most because we're so open and vulnerable to them. You know what I mean? Because our hearts are so open to our loved ones and those near to us, even the smallest disappointment, no matter how big or how small, stinks. To get his daughter through that is a struggle. Vicaria's motivation for her character is greatly enhanced by seeing her embark on that trip with her damaged father. It's hardly surprising that she would resort to extreme means, such as turning a corpse into, given the tragedy she is surrounded by and the fact that the people who are meant to care for her are either dead or using drugs. Although we may not support what she is doing, we understand why she is doing it, and that is excellent writing. Working within a budget. The attempt to update the well-known tale for the modern horror genre while maintaining its originality on a tight budget was another hurdle in the filming of this movie. The plot admits that horror films must adhere to certain guidelines. I like to call them rules of thumb. I do make references to the horror films I enjoy as well as the stuff that frightened me. I felt like certain elements of horror were being exploited quite a bit these days, so I wanted to keep away from them. It was more about trying to come up with new horror-related weapons for me, says Story. The legendary slasher Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of his favorite horror films. They had these grating sounds every time they would cut to something, and I wanted to exercise that one because I felt like that's not really being used, he claims. It being a Frankenstein film, there has to be some gore as well. When you don't have enough gore, I feel like you're being dishonest because they're dealing in corpses. Gore will take part in that, he claims. Everyone enjoys a scare. However, a good horror film involves more than just gore, spooky creatures, and jump scares. Thematic material is required. What people don't realize or talk about in the original Black Christmas is one of the things I adore about it. The movie has a discussion about abortion in the middle of it. A discussion, whether pro-choice, pro-life, or whatever, is taking place in the middle of that film. I think that movie was produced in the 1970s. The horror of this guy residing in this sorority home knocking him off is blended up with the commentary from that film. I like how this horror was wrapped up with drama and societal critique. Vicaria is a brilliant character in Angry Black Girl, but society, her instructors, the police, and especially her family have all failed her. Nobody is there to help her or watch out for her. It makes natural that she would use her brother's corpse to construct a monster to look after her. One of the issues of the story is addressed by her actions. How does one deal with life's agony and loneliness when society and family fail? Limiting oneself. Story compares it to hiding medicine inside a candy bar because he is aware that you can't push a concept too far in a film. In my opinion, telling a Frankenstein story requires putting strong themes in front of the audience. That is exactly how the story is. That is what is taking place. They are discussing God and the struggle between man and God. Both life and death are topics of conversation. These objects are in your face like giants. I am aware that when I tell this tale, some people are put off by that sort of material, but this is what Frankenstein is all about. Just place the medication inside the Snickers bar, then, is that right? Such as, how did that get in?